Good morning to you. I'm Fred Blankenship. The time is now 7.
The gridlock is breaking tonight after something that is not supposed to happen did in an area called the Sun Belt in a city known as Hotlanta.
Advisory. That's feet and face. Very strong rip currents. Inexperienced swimmers should stay well away from the shore break and out.
Ice caused a meltdown. The winter storm that brought snow and ice to the south yesterday stranded thousands.
When a disease is this contagious, even cautious medical professionals are at serious risk.
That case highlighting how difficult it is to prevent infected people from traveling.
Now, if the so-called prophecy were correct, all you have to do is look up. The sky should be on fire.
The virus spreads through contact with bodily fluids and is fatal in up to 90% of cases.
This is a concern to many in our society. But what does it actually mean? Depending on who you speak to, there are different fates awaiting us. To some, we'll soon drastically and dramatically run out of resources. To others though, this is all just an exaggeration, something we don't necessarily need to even worry about. But who's right? What are the consequences of our growing population, and is it
The initial symptoms of the disease, including fever and a sore throat, resemble many other illnesses.
I don't remember any day or any time like this. This is the worst.
I think it's
There's some real problems facing the planet Earth.
horrible. It's a shame, and I just want to know why. You know, what caused it.
Stone walls with boarded up windows, gutted inside, empty. Empty just as the souls that reside within. This man-made hell, the abode of helplessness, self-hate and despair. Buildings condemned, half destroyed and burned down on MLK Drive, standing side by side. Lined with junkies, crackheads, drunks and garbage. Pregnant teens and childless fathers. This is what we call the projects. The definition of project is a planned undertaking. What I need to know is who is the mastermind behind this entire situation, this depraved.
In the recent years, our public health departments have failed us. Since their start in the mid-1900s, there has been a rapid decrease in public health centers across the country. With this decrease has come an influx of deadly disease outbreaks. But none of these outbreaks have been as bad as this one, the zombie virus. With lack of resources for those in lower income districts, this virus has spread like wildfire. It seems as though there is no way to stop it. Although it seemed like science fiction many years ago, it looks as though a zombie apocalypse could now be the greatest threat to mankind.
The Umbrella Corporation thought they'd contained the infection. They were wrong. Raccoon City was just the beginning. Within weeks, the T-virus had consumed the United States. Within months, the world. The virus didn't just wipe out human life. Lakes and rivers dried up, forests became deserts, and whole continents were reduced to nothing more than barren wastelands. Slowly but surely, the earth began to wither and die.
So I know out in California, many public health departments closed. What public health departments do in the U.S. has changed dramatically. And so there's been lack of CDC funds to really make for robust public health departments like I guess there used to be in the heyday of public health departments. But it seems like, I think that's very critical, because if you don't have people, boots on the ground, looking for infections, alerting the community to infections, then we're not going to notice.
According to Framing the Dangers of Designer Drugs by Dee Foster, in 2012 in Miami, Florida, there was a zombie attack due to the designer drug being sold on the streets. A car wash employee attacked an elderly homeless man on the streets and bit his face off. This attack lasted a painful 18 minutes long, resulting in the victim losing more than half of his face and both eyes. This attack was claimed to be on bath salts, but some news reporters did not agree with this due to the lack of evidence. The attacker later pled insanity to the court. This shows how drugs can affect and take over our brains, turning us into something we are not. With the rapid drug use taking over the country, this is not too far off thinking that this soon could come an epidemic.
That, I think, is kind of scary with those chemicals. Probably one that comes to mind that our HIV patients do get, but they're not necessarily aggressive with it, but it's more just really, it's an active infection going on in the brain, is toxoplasmosis, so that is actually a parasite. And it is one of the ones that we have to protect our HIV patients against.
Yes.
But so toxo is a parasite that often comes from cats or raw meat. And so it's very interesting.
Right.
And so our patients that have been exposed to this, either from having a cat and having to deal with the kitty litter, or eating meat that's a little more on the raw side than maybe it should be, they will have seen this parasite and their body will have fought it off.
Right.
But if you become immunocompromised from HIV, what happens is your body has memory of that infection, and when your immune system drops, your body, that infection still, it's been totally under check by your wonderful immune system.
Right.
But when your immune system drops, then that infection that's been kind of like laying there dormant and your body's had control over can blossom. And so we will see people come in with brain infections from that particular parasite.
If a strong virus like this were to take over and more people were exposed, it could cause a zombie outbreak. For example, if this outbreak of rabies were to reach raccoons, it would override their natural instincts. Typically, raccoons try to avoid people. If a strong virus like this were to take over and more people were exposed, it could cause a zombie outbreak. For example, if this outbreak of rabies were to reach raccoons, it would override their natural instincts. Typically, raccoons try to avoid people, but if their brains were attacked by this virus, they would be more social and aggressive towards humans. Imagine if a parasite like rabies were to take over the human mind, causing an aggressive and zombie-like state. It all begins when spores from a parasite called cordyceps infect a working ant. Ants of the colony will then begin to transport the sick ant far away from the colony. One may think it's extreme until the zombie process begins. The spores can take up to 3 weeks for a stem to erupt from the back of an ant's head. Once the stem has fully grown, the mature fungus releases spores from its stroma, thus creating a kill zone. The spores will fall to the ground, creating a 10-square-foot death zone to attack new ants. Only the death zone isn't only harmful to ants. It can also affect other species and insects. One could only imagine if the death zone was near a village or civilization.
I mean, we never know what might be the next great outbreak.